Beitza. Um, it's a, is it hey no hey Aleph.
Dalid Hay.
One may what did I say? Above Aleph. One may throw produce through a trapdoor on Yom Tov, but not on the
No, no, no,
Sabbath.
no. That's me. That's me. Go back
That's
to
you.
yeah. Go back to Dalid Hay.
Okay. I knew there was a hey there somewhere. Okay. Um, Reb Elazar says a person may take a chip from what lies before him to clean his teeth with it, and he may gather from the courtyard in light. For everything which is in the courtyard is regarded as prepared, but the comments say he may gather that which is before him and light. One may not produce fire from wood, stones, earth, and water, or one may not heat tiles to roast on them. Furthermore, Reb Elazar says a person may stand in a muktzah before the Sabbath in the seventh year and say, "From here I will eat tomorrow," but the comments say only if he marks it and says, "From here to there." One may throw produce to a trap. No,
No, this is me now.
right.
Okay,
Did
so
I skip one?
putting.
Did I
I
skip
think
one?
yes, you did. Yeah, I think you
I
skipped a
did.
page.
Okay.
Yeah, I just
Oh, one may bring up a potsherd, and one may not cut paper to roast on salt fish, and one may not break out an oven or a stove, but one may press down, and one may not take side by side to support the pot on them. And one may not support the pot with a chip of wood, and this applies also to a door. And one may not lead an animal with a staff on Yom Tov, but Rebbe Elazar ben Shimon says permits. Okay, now it's you, not
now
me.
it's me. Okay. Um. Right. Hey, Aleph. Mashilin Paris Derech Aruba B'Yom Tov. So here's a situation. You've got fruit drying out on your roof, and you see a storm coming, and you want to protect your produce from the coming rain. So what you do is you want to bring it inside. Now, because there's a lot of stuff out there, we say on Yom
Right.
Tov you can take this fruit and knock it down through the skylight, and then close the
Right.
skylight to after the storm, obviously. Um, but only because you're just sort of sweeping it into the skylight and letting it drop. But aval lo b'Shabbat, and that's not permitted on Shabbat because I think the fruit is why not, or why is it different? Because the fruit is
It'd be a loss, right?
I'm just thinking why it would be different on Shabbos. Okay. Let's just finish what the Mishnah says. Umechasim peros b'kelim mipnei hadelif. And you can no, uh, but what you can't do is lift it up and put it through a window. So, like, let's say it's outside and you want to pick it up and put it through the window, because now that's extra effort bending down,
Right.
picking up. So there's going to be a whole lot of stuff. It's not just the once off. It's every time you go down and pick up the fruit. That's going to be considered a lot of effort on Yom Tov, and therefore they didn't permit it. Mechasim peros bekalim. So what do you do if you can't move it? If you're in a situation where there's no way to drop it through a trapdoor, you can take kalim, take a bunch of bowls and pots and whatever, and put them on top of your kalim, whether it's on Shabbos or Yom Tov. That's how you protect them. V'chein kadei yain v'kadei shemen. Also, even with bottles of wine and of oil, you can cover them up like that, even though it's less of a loss because they're mostly sealed. But you want to protect them, you can protect them. Um, V'nosnin kli tachas hadelef b'Shabbos. You're also allowed to put a bowl or something underneath the drain pipe on Shabbos, in order to catch the water that is coming out of the drain pipe. Now this is so that to protect your house from getting wet. So it's like that would kind of be the equivalent of if you've got a leaky air conditioner. And you want to catch the water that's dripping out of your air conditioner so it doesn't spread all over your floor. And that would be a modern equivalent. Um, Although there are those who say that this is specifically with water that is drinkable, so that you don't make your kli muktzah. On the other hand, I'm thinking, like, that would the water should be muktzah anyway, because any rainwater that falls on Shabbos is muktzah anyway. So I don't understand that
Yeah.
opinion, honestly. I mean, I remember this last time it snowed in Ramat Beit Shemesh. It snowed on Shabbos, which was
Right.
immensely frustrating to anyone who knew the halacha. Because when it
What did
falls
you
on
do?
Shabbos, the snow on Shabbos is muktzah. You can't have a snowball fight. So what's the point? Anyway, Kol shechayvin alav mishum shvus, mishum rishus, mishum mitzvah b'Shabbos chayvin alav b'Yom Tov. Okay, so we don't really mean chayavim. We just mean that the Chachamim said it was asur.
Mhm.
Okay, that you. So when you say chayav, you're not. It means that you chayav to listen to the Chachamim on this Shabbos. We're not saying that you're actually going to be chayav misa for all of these different things, because all of them are actually derabanan. Um, so we got three different categories. Shvus, which is a protection of a central mitzvah. So that's then there's reshus, things that are optional, and mishum mitzvah, and things that are considered a mitzvah. And we're going to dive into each of these categories. So whether if it's Asr and Shabbos, it's also Asr and Yom Tov, and so in all these cases we don't make a distinction. Eluhein mishum shvus. So what are the things that are asur on Shabbos and Yom Tov because of a shvus? Lo olin ba'ilan. You're not allowed to climb a tree. Why? Because you might break a branch. Lo ruchvin al gabe behema. You're not allowed to ride an animal. Why? Because you might break off a branch to use as a swatch for the switch to hit the animal and make it go faster. Okay. Lo shatin al pnei hamayim. You're not allowed to go on a boat on the water, just in case you build a raft. Okay. V'lo metapchin, v'lo mesap, and you're not allowed to clap or mesapkin is another form, is like slapping your leg, or lo meraktin, dancing even over here. I'm not sure that that's it's not sure. Um, I mean, Lumasi, I don't think that's actually halacha, because you see plenty of people dance on Shabbos, and even clapping in shul on Shabbos people do. So I'm not sure that all of these are halacha. The
I
Elu,
thought
Mhm.
I thought climbing a tree was one of the reasons was because you might come to pick the fruit.
That's for breaking branches.
This will bring. I thought it was
Like
having to do with
that.
the fruit.
Let me just see what it says over here again. Yeah, because you might break off leaves or branches. That's what it
Right.
says in my commentary anyway.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Okay, so what are the things that are considered rishus? Lord danin, you're not allowed to sit on a base din, because that's an optional thing. You could push off to the next day. Lo mekadshin, you can't do a kiddushin on Shabbos. Lo cholzin, you can't do chalitza either. Lo meyabmin, and can't do yibum either. So these are all things that are, and it's interesting because they're things that you would think maybe that fall into the case of mitzvah, because it is a mitzvah to do kiddushin. It's a mitzvah to do yibum. It's a mitzvah to do chalitza. But nonetheless, these are things that you have an option in all of these cases. You can decide not to be Makadesh this woman. You can decide not to do Chalitza or Yibum, or there are other alternatives. Ve'elohein mishum mitzvah, and here, and these are the things that are asked to do on Shabbos and Yom Tov because of mitzvah. Lo makdishin, sanctifying something for hekdesh. I don't really I find it satisfying to say that what's the difference between the rishus and the mitzvah, because just like mekadshin and makdishin seem to be similar. Mekadshin is for a woman, and makdishin is sanctifying something for the mikdash. But either way, you have an option not to do it. So I'm not sure why they are put into separate categories. Lo marichin, making a pledge of an erich. Lo machrimin. These are all the same sort of category.
Same thing. Right.
Lomad being truma or maser, and separating truma and maser are also things that are mitzvahs. And it's interesting again that the mitzvahs, because they're completely optional. I mean, okay, truma and maser is not that you do have to do once you have the produce. But the first three, makdishin, marichin, machrimin, are all just voluntary donations to the temple. I'm not sure why they're in a separate category, and I'll leave that as an open question. Kol elu b'yom tov amru. All of these things are asked even on Yom Tov, kal v'chomer b'Shabbos. Ein ben Yom Tov l'Shabbos ela ochel nefesh bilbad. The only thing that is permitted on Yom Tov that is not permitted on Shabbos is when you have an inyan of ochel nefesh, when it's something that you are preparing food, and you're allowed to, and therefore you're allowed to do the malachas involved in preparing food. And and according to Beis Hillel, once you're allowed to do the malachas because of food, you're also allowed to do them for other needs.
Okay.
Okay, Gimel. Habehema v'hakelim keragle habalim. Okay. Um, Now we have a principle with tchumen that wherever you are for a Shabbos is your tchum, and
Mhm.
you are not allowed to leave that tchum. So if you're in a city, it like hardly ever comes into play because you can walk the entire length and breadth of the city. Only when you get outside the last row of houses that we start counting 2,000 amos, and you're not allowed to go beyond that. Okay. Now, what happens to your possessions? That the possessions that are allowed to move, and this particularly comes into play in Yom Tov because there's no din of hotzah. You're allowed to carry things in the street. Um, so behema and kalim, an animal or a person's possessions, are considered like the feet of the owners. So let's say I'm a farmer and I own some cows and and I'm staying in my farm over Shabbos. Now that means I've got a tchum of 2,000 amos. But let's say just not too far away there's a shepherd who wants to come and take my animals and graze them somewhere nearby. So he's coming from a different tchum. Now our tchumim overlap, so he can
Right.
come and take my animals, but he can't take them into the area where he can go, but I can't because my animals belong to me and they're not allowed to leave my
Right.
tchum.
Okay.
So Hamoseh behemto livno or leroeh, he gives his animals over to his son or to the shepherd. Hare elu kiragle habalim. That he's only allowed to take it as far as I would be allowed to go, not as far as he's allowed to go. Okay. There is a little subtlety that Kati mentions in the Mishnah that if there is a single roer who always takes people like a professional dog walker,
No.
professional shepherd who goes around and takes all everyone's animals and walks them around, if it's known ahead of time that he's going to be taking care of the animals over Shabbos, then it's as if they're already handed over to him and the animals follow his. Anyway,
Okay.
Kalim hamayuchadim le'echad min ha'achin sheba bayis. So let's say you've got a bunch of brothers living together, and some things belong to one brother specifically, or even if they jointly own them, but one brother is the one who always makes use of it. Hare elu kiraglav, then it follows his tchum, not the other brother's tchumin. V'she'en miyuchadin, but if anything is not miyuchad, if it's for joint use of all the brothers, what that means is that we have to take the area of overlap. Only the overlap area where all the brothers are allowed to go is where these kalim are allowed to go, because they all have a share in it, and therefore we take the most machmir view of where the kalim are allowed to be.
Okay.
Okay, let's go.
Okay. Beitza. Beis Aleph.
Base
If you
base.
always put it in the wrong place.
Uh, yeah, base base. That's correct. Base base.
If it occurs after the Shabbos, Beis Shammai says one immerses everything before Shabbos, but Beis Hillel says utensils before utensils, utensils before the Sabbath, but a man on the Sabbath. But they agree that one may make surface contracting of water in a stone vessel in order to render it clean, but one does not immerse it, and one does immerse it from one purpose to another and from one company to another. But Shammai says one brings peace offerings, but does not lay the hands on them, right? Oh, bless you. But not burnt offerings. Beis Hillel says one brings peace offerings and burnt offerings and lays their hands on them. Okay. Go over to Yom. Okay. Hey, Dollar. They brought him the he goat. They slaughtered it, received his blood in a basin. He entered the place that he had previously entered, and stood in the place and had stood, and sprinkled it from one time upward and seven times downward. But he did not. I'm hearing something. Can you excuse me a second, please? I have to do this. All right. I'm sorry. Um, Hey, and he shall go out to the altar which is before Hashem, and this refers to the golden plated altar in the holy. He started the dab downward, where he did the start from the northeast corner to the northwest corner, from the northwest corner to the north southwest corner to the southeast corner. And the place from which he started to dab on the outer order for a regular sin sacrifice, it would be finished on the inner altar. Reb Eliezer says he remained in his place and dabbed the blood, and of all of them he applied the blood from the bottom to the top, except for this one which was in front of him, upon which he applied the blood from the top to the bottom. he sprinkled upon the surface of the altar 7 times, and the remainder of the blood he would pour into the western base of the outer water. But those sacrifices of the outer altar he would pour upon the southern base. These and those mixed together in the canal and flowed out to the Kidron Valley. It was sold to gardeners for fertilizer, and one is liable to unauthorized use of it. Okay.
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 Erevin.
Okay. Um, Aleph, Aleph Gimel. The grossing of which he spoke is wide enough to hold An arak is half of a brick measuring 3 fists. It is sufficient for the grossing to be 1 fist wide to hold an arak lengthwise. Wide enough to hold an arak and strong enough to hold the arak. And Rebbe Huda says wide, even if it is not strong. If it was made of straw or reeds, we would view it as if it was made of metal. But bent, we view it as if it was straight, rounded, and we view it as if it was squared. Anything that's over the surface of 3 fists has a diameter of 1 fist. Okay. We're on to
Hey,
Shabbos. Peah. Okay. Peah, Dalet, Sheva. If one son consecrated standing ears and he rendered them standing ears, he is liable. Sheaves and he redeemed sheaves, he is liable. Standing ears and he redeemed sheaves, he is exempt. But the time when it became liable, it was exempt. Similarly, if a person consecrates his produce from the beginning of Mishna's season and he redeems it, he's liable. After the beginning of the Mishna's season and he redeemed it, is liable. If he consecrated it before it was finished and the treasurer finished it, and afterwards he redeemed it, it is exempt. For the time it became liable, it was exempt. If a person gathered the payer and said, "This is for such and such a poor person," who earlier says he was acquired it for him, but the sages say he shall give it to a poor person to whom he meets first. The leket and the shikor and the payer of a non-Jew are liable to Mishras unless he declared it ownerless. Kingdom. Okay. This is base hay. There was a certain catasauria over here and an Ola bird over there, and an endangered, undesignated pair in the middle, and then from there flew from the middle pair to the 2 sides. One bird to this side, one bird to that side. Nothing is lost. Rather, he would say, this bird which went to the katos should be the katos, and that bird which went to the Ola should be an Ola. If the pair of birds return to the center, those in the center must be left to die. Those which remain in the position of the katos should be offered as katos, and these which remain in the position of the Ola shall be offered as Olas. If a pair of birds repeated and flew from the center pair to each of the side groups, and all of them must be left to die. One may not bring turtle doves to be paired with young pigeons, not young pigeons to be paired with turtle doves. How is this? A woman who first brought a katos offering with a turtle dove and then brought her ola offering with a young pigeon must repeat and bring the ola with a turtle dove. If he first brought her ola offering with a turtle dove and then she brought her katos offering with a young pigeon, she must repeat and bring her ola offering with a young pigeon. Because Isaiah says we follow the species of the first offering. A woman who brought a katos offering after childbirth and then died, heirs must bring her an ola offering and afterwards. If however she brought her ola offering and then died, the heirs did not bring a katos offering afterwards. In what cases are the previous things said? When a Kohen inquires, when a Kohen does not require, if there was one pair of obligatory birds, and with this woman and one for pair for that, or 2 pairs for this woman and 2 pairs for that one, and 3 pairs for this woman and 3 pairs for that one. If he made them all above the red line, half of the mingled offerings are valid and half of them are invalid. If he made them below the red line, half of the mingled offerings and half of them are invalid. If he made half of them above the red line and half below the red line, of those offerings, these were made above the red line, and these half are valid, half are invalid. And of those offerings which are made below the red line, half are valid and half are invalid. Okay. One more, and we go to.
Hang on, you didn't do Mishna base yet.
Oh, okay, sorry. If one woman has one pair of obligatory birds offerings, another one has 2 pairs, another one has 3, and another one has 10, and another one has 100 pairs, and the Kohen made all of them above the red line, half of the mingled offerings are valid, half are invalid. If he made them all below the red line, half of the mingled offerings are valid and half of them are invalid. If he made them half above the red line and half below the red line, the number of the pairs and lines will be valid. And this is the rule. Every situation in which you can divide the pairs in a way that one woman's bird offerings will not be both above the red line and below the red line, then half of the mingled offerings are valid and half of them are invalid. In any situation in which you cannot divide the pairs but other than in a way that one woman's bird offerings will be both above the red line and below the red line, then the number of pairs and the largest group is valid.
Yep.
Okay. Test Yud Gimel. One who lends his neighbor may not exact the surety coming except in court, nor may one enter his house to take a security, as it is said, "You shall stand outside." If he has 2 utensils, he may take one and leave one. If he must return the pillow by night and the plowshare by day, if he dies, he need not return it to its heirs. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says, even to the dead himself, he need only return it up to 30 days, and after 30 days he sells him in court. We may not exact security from a widow, whether she be poor or rich, and it is said, and you shall not take security as the garment of a widow. One who takes a meal as security transgresses the negative commandment, and he is guilty of taking two utensils, that it is said, he shall not take a lower millstone or an upper millstone of security. They did not speak only of the lower millstone and the upper millstone, but of anything which was used for food for human conception is prepared, as it is said, for he takes life as security. Okay. And the last one in use is if a ground floor and an upper story belong to
Yeah.
right? If a ground floor and an upper story belong to two different people collapse, two of them divide the wood, the stones, the earth, and they determine which stones are likely to have been broken. But one of them recognizes some of the stones, he takes them, and they're counted for him in the reckoning. Okay, we're good.
One more.
Okay. Really?
Yeah.
Oh, if a ground, if a ground floor and upper story belong to two people and the upper story partly fell in, the owner of the ground floor does not wish to make repairs. The occupant of the upper story may go and live downstairs until he repairs the upper story for him. Bigosi says the downstairs one supplies the ceiling and the upstairs one the plaster. Okay.
And we're done. Okay, and I'm going to run.
I know, go.